The Defiant are the biggest letdown in the Overwatch League right now. They just got their first win of the season in a close 5-map series against the New York Excelsior, a team generally regarded as bottom 4 in the league. This match, compounded by the 2 losses the Defiant suffered in the opening week, results in a very heavy underperformance from one of the most hyped up rosters in the league. In their 3-2 loss against the Shock, they seemed to know how they wanted to rotate their DPS line and had pretty strong game plans, but just came up short in the execution and got kinda out-mechanicked by the Shock superstars. Then in their 3-1 loss to the Gladiators, that all just vanished. They were playing Sam in places that infringed on Hydron's areas of expertise like Hanzo or Sombra, and only started to fight back when Hydron was deadlifting on hit scan. Their game plans were lacking, and individually they didn't look very good except for the previously mentioned Hydron and Speedily, who actually low-key diffed Kevster at times. Peluge specifically had a pretty poor match with consistently misplaced bubbles and no real playmaking pressure. So this week against New York, they changed what seemed to be the problem versus LA. Hydron and Speedily were in full time, and Kaluge was leaning into his hero pool, playing more Junker Queen and Ramatra. It's important for Toronto to balance out playing to Kaluge's strength while also continuing to work on his Winston, because Winston is just unavoidable in Owl. Despite these changes, Toronto really didn't look any stronger, but that's not why this match was close. The Excelsior showed that people have been underrating them by placing them down at the same level as the Valiant. Psycho had a great game, and he was the best player in the lobby most of the time, with multiple clutch plays throughout this match. Kellen was also pretty good on Winston, Ramatra, and Reinhardt, and Let being in full time was very nice and definitely helped. So in this match, things started out pretty well for Toronto. They took Antarctic Peninsula 2-0 on mostly Junker Queen and Ramatra comps, with Kaluge getting many resources to pop off, and he actually stood out in a good way for the first time as a member of the Defiant. Then on Hollywood, they moved over to the Winston composition, and they got rolled on A in one fight, thanks to Psycho going crazy and killing the backline. However, they would hold strong on B for the better part of 5 minutes, with UV and OG kiting New York's dives effectively while Toronto went to work on the opposing backline. That is until Kaluge died with less than 5% off of Primal and the floodgates opened, resulting in New York moving on to the last point. Toronto were able to stop New York's momentum, and due to the little time left on the clock, they would hold at the final choke. On the offense, Toronto slugged through A after a couple of fights, but also got held on B for a solid chunk of time until they were eventually able to live through a dive, take high ground with Primal, and then push forward with a nano onto Kaluge. But this is where things start to get dicey for Toronto. New York were able to kite out OG's rally, re-engage with nano onto Kellen, and then give Psycho the space he needed to stop all momentum. And suddenly, Toronto found themselves down both supports with 10 seconds left on the clock. Hydron and Speedily were barely able to get the touches they needed to stall enough time for OG to get back with rally and squeak out a very close map win. Moving on to Havana, where New York would actually begin their comeback, Toronto opted to run Ramatra Rush the entire time. This is pretty surprising because Kaluge has a world-class Sigma, and the Hydron Sam sniper duo has been pretty effective so far. They did find pretty good success on the defense against New York's Reinhardt Brawl, as they were able to spawn hold them for 2 minutes. In the 2 more fights they get on first from spawn holding, they accomplished pretty much nothing. New York had some well-placed ults that messed with Toronto's plans, and Shockwave dismantled them while being uncontested on Hanzo. They were eventually able to stop New York towards the end of B though. On the offense though, they got spawn held for even longer than New York did, and even once they did manage to break through, they were unable to use their ults to maintain their momentum like New York had, and got full held. On map 4 Esperanza, Toronto took an early lead and reached a checkpoint in the Queen vs Ramatra matchup, but were unable to maintain it once they ditched the Queen for Winston. I'm not sure what prompted them to make the swap. It's not like JQ was dominating, but it wasn't not working either. New York were able to overcome this early deficit with good objective control and finding key picks on the Defiant to extend their distance per fight win, resulting in them taking the lead and then some with 2 minutes remaining. In the final map of the series, and to stop the reverse sweep, Toronto won Oasis 2-1. Toronto decided not to ditch Reinhardt entirely, I guess, and then lost the Rein vs Ram Brawl mirror, but finally got the matchup they were looking for, Junker Queen vs Winston. And with this compositional advantage, they won the 2 maps they needed to prevent the reverse sweep, and prevent the loss to New York. This match was not a barn burner, but it wasn't awful either. And while Toronto continues to underachieve, New York do have things to be happy about moving forward. Let me know your concerns about the Defiant down below. Do you see them turning this around quickly, or will it be more of a slow and steady climb? Or maybe you think they'll continue to underachieve this entire year. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, subscribe and tell all your friends for more Overwatch League content. Have yourself a good one. Deuces.